Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to cover Game 17 of Smithy's Opening Fundamentals. We have Netzer versus Moondet Riera. This game took place in 2006. So let's go ahead and go over the game. Again, E4. Kind of the intro for this game is that white focuses on developing and playing in the center. Black focuses on pawn moves and not castling. It goes about as well as you'd expect. So D6. Black plays a double-edged strategy of advancing in the center after a few preparatory moves first, which is knight f6. Right, so knight c3, and then e5. Black claims his share of the center. Knight f3, knight b to d7. Black plays solidly, but he has little space currently. So what does this move do? Knight to d7 blocks the bishop here, right? Also, the bishop is blocked by this pawn on d6, so the bishops are blocked. So then white plays g4, right? That's why white tries an interesting gambit. And now white notices that the bishop cannot take because the bishop is blocked, so it decides a gambit, right? So you have to know, if you're black, that if you take the gambit, then white is going to play rook g1, then you have to pay your knight back. And then in the long term, after you get your bishop out, you're going to have to play h6, because if you don't, if black castles, then because the rook is here lined up against the king, you're gonna white is gonna play immediately bishop h6, and then once you play the pawn forward to g6, then white will capture the rook that's here on f8, right? So it's something you have to really think about when you take this pawn, right? If you are black, that's what you have to think about and calculate. Okay, what does this mean? What does this mean for the future of my pieces, the future of my position? And that's what you have to visualize. Black accepts a gambit, so rook g1, knight back to f6. Black has lost time moving his knight around. And in exchange, white has put pressure on the g7 pawn, which is again something we already discussed. It's not easy for black to develop his bishop without losing the pawn. And that's also something true, something that I did not discuss, right? So now if you move the bishop, the rook can also take the pawn on g7 here. Bishop c4, h6. An unnecessary pawn move while behind in development is always risky. Now this makes sense, right? Something we discussed, like to prevent either bishop h6 or to prevent the bishop from going to g5 and pinning the knight here. But it is a pawn move. Bishop b3, c6. More pawn moves, more not developing, right? So at this point, if you know that if you move the bishop, you're going to lose your pawn, your strategy should change. That okay, now I have to castle queenside, right? So as soon as you see okay, bishop c5, now I can play knight to b6, attacking the bishop. Now the bishop will have to go either to back to b3 or back to d3. And after I move the knight to, after I play knight to b3, now I can play my queen out to e7, my bishop out to d7, and I can castle queenside. So that should be the plan. Again, but that's not what black does. c6, more pawn moves. Now black sees, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces out against black's 2 pieces out. So I'm going to start opening the position, right? A lead in development is more powerful in an open position, so white starts trading pawns. Queen d3. You could prepare this move here. Rook to d1. Queen e7. Okay, so now black is just missing knight to b6. Attacking should gain a tempo on the bishop. Now, and then bishop to d7, and then black can castle queenside. Right? White castles queenside. It's only 11 moves in, and white has completed development. It's not clear how black will get his pieces into the game. Well, it's pretty clear. Knight b6, bishop to d7, and then castles, right? Now again, there is a battery lined up against the d7 square. But again, once you play knight to b6, it'll defend the d7 square. So now you have the knight and the queen defending this square. g6 prepares to develop to g7, but it is another pawn move. Now again, it's just the wrong idea, right? To still decide you want to castle king side, knight h4. Now again, if you see this, the knight cannot go here because it'll be captured. It can go here. Same, if it captures, it'll be captured by the f7 pawn. So most likely, what is the idea? To play f4, then play the knight back to f3, right? So how does this look from black's perspective? Okay, you see this? Now this is coming, f4, and then knight back to f3. Rook g8, black reinforces g6, but the rook is very passive here. f4, b6, black is trying to develop, but this is her 7th pawn move in the opening. Knight f3, the knight returns to the center where all of white's pieces are aiming. h5, another pawn move. That would be 8 pawn moves. F captures e8, and this is white completely opening the center. Knight g4. Now again, if knight captures a pawn on e5, then knight captures on e5, queen captures e5, then queen d8, checkmate. So knight g4, bishop g5, attacking the queen. White's pieces swarm around black's weaknesses. Knight captures d5, saying, okay, if you take my queen, I take your queen. White's central strategy now culminates into a winning combination. So again, you can pause the video here. What is a combination to finish the game for white? Okay, and it is queen d8 check. Right? Queen captures d8, and then rook captures d8 checkmate. Some modern players really like playing with pawns in the opening. They think the pawns can form a fortress and keep the enemy's pieces away. This game shows the antidote: push pawns, exchange pawns, and use your superior development and open on those open lines. So again, make sure you all like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.